Panel discussion about skills for all, building inclusive communities through opportunity and access. I invite on stage the moderator, Mr. Robin Tomey, Executive Director, KDISC, Dr. Anantalakshmi V, Mr. S.S. Jayashankar, Ms. Meera Shenoy, Mr. Moses Gorepati, Mr. G. Vijay Raghavan. I request the moderator, Mr. Robin Tomey, to introduce our panelists.
This is yet another, I think, mind-blowing and more we are going to talk about the inclusive mindset, specifically from the skilling perspective. So once again, I just wanted to introduce the entire panelists, but before we jump into the introduction, so what are we trying to do here, okay? So today I have the privilege of moderating the conversation on building inclusive communities through skills and opportunity. As someone who is leading the Social Enterprise and Inclusion Division of KDISC, which is Kerala's apex agency for innovation-led development, I've been spending a lot of my career now believing in the most powerful innovation are those that ensure no one is left behind. So while I had a lot of opportunities with the Tata Consultancy Services developing multiple technologies like the robots and stuff, today we have been working on assistive technology, maker spaces, innovation centers across Kerala. We don't just create devices, we are just trying to create as many possibilities as possible from KDISC perspective. Now today's conversation, as you see the panelists, eminent panelists I would say, is going to bring together the leaders who have dedicated their careers to turning barriers into bridges and the limitations into launch pads and challenges into opportunities. Now, each of the panelists represents a different facet of inclusive skilling, but they have shared a common belief that true progress is measured not how high we climb, but how many we lift as we rise. And this is the powerful statement I wanted to bring towards when I look at the panelists, their happy faces, and the work that they have done. That's what you're going to hear. So let me introduce and start with S.S. Jayashankar, who is the founding director of Urja. S.S. Jayashankar embodies the power of purpose over profit. So he has 2 successful decades of experience as a senior vice president at HDFC Bank. He walked away from the corporate success to creating something that's more meaningful, and that's called Urja. His vision was simple yet revolutionary. Identify what each individual can do, and Urja has built an ecosystem of training, certification, seed funding, mentorships, and successfully designed a lot of leaders across. I could see a lot of Urja leaders also a part of this sessions in here as a part of the Skilling Summit. So now the organization is on its 5th anniversary celebration, a landmark inclusive football match uniting hearing impaired, visually impaired, cerebral palsy, and non-disabled participants, which perfectly captures his philosophy that true inclusion happens with everyone that plays on the same field. Join me in welcoming Jayashankar. So I'll just introduce everyone and then I'll start with the questions. So that's how we have planned how this panel has to go. So second I think I need not even introduce, but GVR, G. Vijay Raghavan sir, who is the honorary director of CADR. GVR represents a rare convergence of technology, leadership, and social compassion. The architect of Kerala's tech revolution, as most of you know, he has founded the India's first technology park that transformed Kerala into an IT hub. But his greatest legacy may be his second act, which is founding the National Institute of Speech and Hearing, which is NISH in Trivandrum, and later CADR, where cutting-edge technology means the rehabilitation science. As a former member of Kerala Planning Board, he has led groundbreaking programs in the cochlear implants and early intervention. Vijay Raghavan sir proves that true visionaries don't just build industries, they build hope, creating pathways from innovation to inclusion. Welcome you, sir, to the stage. Now let me introduce Moses Chowdhury Gorepati, who is the Executive Director and Trustee of Enable India. Now, Moses is living proof that ability transcends disability. As a visually impaired leader who became his family's primary breadwinner using accessible technologies, he embodies the transformation he creates for others. Under his leadership, Enable India has transformed over 2 lakh lives, opening employment opportunities across 22 sectors and 19 types of disabilities. His adaptive workspace solutions are so effective that organizations don't just hire once, they return to employ more people with disabilities. Through the mission-driven campaigns like See a Million, Hear a Million, or Rise a Million, Moses is building collective solutions for systemic change, proving that when we focus on ability rather than disability, extraordinary things can happen. Welcome you, Moses, to the stage. Now let me introduce Meera Shenoy, who is the founder and CEO of Youth for Jobs. Meera has been spending her career proving that rural, tribal, and differently able youth aren't just employable, they are extraordinary. Before founding Youth for Jobs, she trained over 2 lakh rural youth with a remarkable 70% of placement rate through India's first state-run jobs initiative. Today, Youth for Jobs operate across 28 states, 8 union territories, while her innovation Swaraj Ability represents India's first inclusive AI job platform for persons with disabilities. From advising the Prime Minister on skilling policy to receiving the National Award from the President of India, Meera has consistently demonstrated that we invest in margins, we strengthen the center of our economy. Welcome, Meera, to the stage. Now, we have yet another eminent panelist, which is Dr. Ananta Lakshmi, who is the founder and CEO for Equi Being Foundation. Dr. Ananta Lakshmi leads with conviction that visual impairment should never limit vision of the future. Through the foundation, she has created pioneering programs like the Swabhiman in collaborating with Infosys Foundation, demonstrating that when technology meets mentorship, barriers become bridges. Her approach goes beyond vocational training to build self-reliance and respect the identity and foster belonging in the mainstream economic ecosystems. Dr. Lakshmi's work across Karnataka and beyond proves that true empowerment happens when we don't just create jobs for persons with disability, we create careers, dignity, and economic independence. Welcome you to the session. So, these are our eminent panelists. Now, let us start with a small introduction to this topic, which is the Skill Kerala Summit. And this topic for us today is Skills for All, Building Inclusive Communities Through Opportunities and Access. It's not that kind of a relevant topic in any of these sessions that you see around the globe that's happening in these kind of summits. But we have taken this topic core to our heart because we wanted to make sure inclusion becomes the mainstream. Let's start with Jaishankar on addressing this in a minute on what he believes and what is his perspectives on the topic.
Thank you, Robin. Thank you, Skill Kerala, for inviting me here. It's a great topic. To me, to be very candid, it's an age-old issue. It's an age-old issue. It's a tussle between majority versus minority. I personally see this as an issue with a very exclusive education system and a very short-term skill building thing. I think once we have a disruption happening in this model, then only we'll have a proper solution coming in. Our traditional models have left us high and dry. That's my personal view. So,
over to you.
I would, in fact, thank you for having me along with such eminent people on this panel. It's a privilege to be here. I would just say that, look, access alone is not enough. We need to look at opportunity. And actually, the whole thing is, we need to ensure there's a chance to learn, to participate, and to lead. This is something which really needs to make a change in society. The other one is, look, we need to move away from disabilities being viewed as charity or sympathy. And even today, a lot of it is in that. We need to look at persons with disability. They don't need sympathy. Okay, it has to be, we need to give skills, dignity, and most important, opportunity. And it's opportunity in which people like Meera and others are working today. And I think that is what we should really be focusing on. And I would say at the end of it, skill development is great, but it has to be market linked, future ready, and technology enabled. So when you look at all this together, mainstreaming is what is required. You can't have a skill program saying it's a skill program for the deaf, it's a skill program for the blind, etc. It has to be mainstreamed. Unfortunately, the way our system works, sorry for the criticism, but nationally we have a quota, 3%, 5%. So just imagine a class of 50 people and one person with disability, what's going to happen? It's not inclusive. Actually, that person gets excluded in that thing. So that is another big thing that is there. And I think it has to move away from, it's a privilege kind of a thing. It's actually is a right. And we should look at that clearly. So I would say government has to create enabling policies and incentives. Industry should be opening up accessible jobs and workplaces. And civil society and NGO should actually be mentoring, training, and hand-holding. So this is what really will make a change and what your topic can really yield a result.
Thank you, sir, for that enlightenment. And I think there's a lot of things that has come out. Let's discuss further on that in the upcoming questions. So over to you, Moses.
First of all, namaskara. I think Kerala is going to celebrate its one of the biggest festivals very soon. So I'm wishing in advance happy Onam to everyone. Pleasure being here. I think when I thought about this topic, when I first saw this impact, that one thing that struck me was when we talk about skilling or opportunities, it's not a one-time thing. And we at Enable India actually started speaking about opportunities as a pathway. Let me illustrate with this very simple example, and then perhaps when I come back, I will share my own journey in little more details. But being a visually impaired child, when I was growing up, when relatives come home, I have a sister who happened to be a person without disability. So people come and just say, what will you become? Everybody used to ask my sister. I used to get irritated because why everybody is only asking my sister, not me. I used to think, okay, I think Anantalakshmi morning you spoke, the overprotection, or people may be thinking, Moses is going through this whole operation after operation, the eye surgery, so why should we even bother him? But that used to make me think about, there are nothing, though nobody expects me to do anything. So I used to give random answers. Even people don't ask me. I used to say one day scientist, another dentist. Thank God I have not become any of those things because I don't know what I would be doing as a dentist removing tooth. But I used to just randomly say. The reason I'm saying this is I think when we are now talking about skills, opportunities, we have to see them as a pathways. When a child is growing, can we already work on the aspirations of the child so that one day when he grew up, he or she would say, I want to become this, or I'm already mentally getting prepared. I think that's the kind of pathway model I think we will be discussing, and I'm very, very happy and would like to thank the organizers for making disability as a part of this whole discussion in the mainstream conference, and really looking forward for the conversation today.
Thank you so much, Moses. Now let's go to Meera.
Happy to be here with this panel of friends. I'm also sure that many of you must have participated in the games which my team played in the 3 stalls outside. So to me, just adding to what the 3 of them said, I think skilling for all means working on the deep divides which India has, whether it's geographical isolation, whether it's gender, whether it's digital, whether it's disability. So on one level, more focus must be given on removing these divides. So there's equal access to both education and employment. On a second level, there's this whole issue which very few people work on, which is co-vulnerability or the intersectional issues. For example, everyone says work on gender, but I'm always the lone voice who speaks on gender with disability. So how do you make sure that these intersectional issues also get mainstreamed into skilling and the policy when we talk of broad subjects like gender.
Thank you. Thank you so much, Meera, for adding your insights. Now, let me ask Dr. Anantalakshmi your insights into this.
Yeah. Very good afternoon and very happy and delighted to be on this panel and talking about this. So I think, for me it's in three parts, and perhaps a summary. So the number one is when two children are born, one in the so-called normal context and the other perhaps with certain abnormalities. What happens in a house, in a home? We start, even before a child is born in India today, we start dreaming about what the child should become. And we start crafting futures. And with AI coming in, I think AI is also playing a key role in drafting for us. So the second part is when this child is now born with an abnormality, what gets taken away is that the goals, the dreams with which a child is usually born into any family for that matter, is taken away because there is no awareness, there's no understanding of where to start. And therefore, what should be a dream translates into a disappointment and then starts the whole journey of adjustments. And Moses beautifully took his example to say nobody thinks you should have a dream. And it varies from home to home. And my story is, I was born into a family very predominantly driven by my mother and grandmother, who were very, very driven by the fact that they were not women who worked. So when a girl child was born, they were very excited that I should become the first woman in the family, the girl in the family who should go out, work and earn. But alas, as I started growing up, when my macular degeneration became diagnosed and labeled, they started saying, it's okay. Because we start bringing down the benchmark or the goal that we hold, the same aggression that was there saying you should be the first girl who will go out and become a leader, it started becoming, it's okay if you don't, because what is more important is your safety and the fact that the disability doesn't come in the way and protection is given. That is one part of the takeaway, Robin, that I would like to put. And the second part of the takeaway is the intersectionality. Because if any of you are asked, who are you? The who are you is never a one-sentence answer. The who are you, when we break identities, there is a gender, there is a region, there is a socio-economic, and then there is a disability. And some intersectionalities take center stage. And one such intersectionality is disability. I always say, when I say I'm a woman, I came from Bangalore, I've traveled the world, I stay in this neighborhood, all great. But the moment I say I'm blind, the first thing, that takes into center is, oh, poor AL, she can't see. So those two, I think, Robin, I'm very keen and looking forward to discussing, saying, how do we fundamentally work around some of this? Thank you.
Awesome, Dr. Anantalakshmi. So you heard it from the panelists, okay, what is their viewpoints, their perspectives. So we heard about the enablement, the access. It's no more looking at the disabled population as a charity. It's no more sympathy or just the compassionate ecosystem. It's more of dignity, enabling the right future, the right opportunities, the right technology, and not taking things as granted and giving them some kind of adjustments for giving them an adjustment. This is not what they are expecting. Or what we wanted to do for them is create the same kind of well-being and a system, okay? So like any other neurotypical across the globe is entitled for. So now let me go into the questions. So let me first start with Dr. Anantalakshmi. So here the question for you is, there are a lot of global and local inspiration in the field of disability skilling, as well as multiple things you have heard about. Share some of the examples where inclusive skilling initiatives have successfully reached the marginalized communities.
Yeah, thank you, Robin. See, I think So I did my PhD. I always call myself Dr. AL. And my daughter says, Mama, that's a fake doctor. And I tell her, so I tell her, no, I'm very proud of the doctorate because I did it on blind achievers. And I did it from TIS Mumbai. And I walked into TIS thinking I know it all because I lived a life of blindness. And therefore, I thought I knew everything about blindness. But I was bullshitting to myself. After 3-4 years, I recognized I know nothing. And I really had no understanding of what is the real context of blindness and disability because I came from privileges that I myself did not recognize. So coming to the question, so I'm going to take 1 or 2 examples from this stories and phenomenological study that I did. Story number 1 is of this young boy who was born in Andhra, in a very remote village of Andhra. And he somehow, he turned blind in his primary schooling days. And he had a love for maths. Now, in India, maths is denied for people with blindness. I don't know, I mean, some great man or woman thought it to be so. And on another side, we push mental maths for all our mainstream children. I've never understood if somebody could excel in mental maths, it should be people who can't see because we are tuned internally to our mental mind frame. But anyway, this boy was denied maths and he wanted to do maths, so he kept writing on the walls, etc. He came up to his 10th and 12th, dropping maths. Then people seeing his passion said, okay, take economics perhaps, that may serve you. He took economics. And then after his postgrad, somebody sent him to Delhi to do a PhD. And I'm talking 30 years ago. He went to Delhi. And there, the professor, seeing his potential, said, hey, you should go to America. So he told me, that's the first time I heard about a continent called America. But the professors forced him and he was sent to America to pursue his PhD. And when he landed there, he says, the word accessibility, its meaning totally changed. Because what was so difficult to move around, walk around, do maths, or all of that just got washed away. And I'm again reminding you 30 years ago, he did his PhD in economics, was actually starting to teach in a university in America, when he recognized that people with blindness, they were learning maths. He learned maths. So to the skilling example, I know of a bunch of blind people who learned maths, not just for the passion, but they're leading data scientists who are blind. So skilling number 1 is how I've seen this model of maths and data sciences working in a foreign country. Now, why am I bringing this example? Because when we come back to our own country, because we think a poor person who's blind, poor person who's deaf, and therefore, the moment you say poor person, you think of some job at the entry level. I once asked somebody, what kind of a job do you think the blind can do? And the person said, maybe, first the person had to be repeatedly asking, what can a blind person do? Because he thought blind can do nothing. And when repeatedly asked, the person said, maybe become a security? How funny, right? I mean, how can if you put me in the security, I'll do the worst job because I'll not know who's walking in and out. So the point is, the global example to Robin's question is, how some of these higher end skills, which are an advantage because of the disability, how that's been tapped. And again, he asked for a local, inspirational example. All the 4 people on my right side are stunning, inspirational stories of the organizations they run. So I will bring a 5th one, which is what I have seen is with Lemon Tree, for example, a hotel that kind of employs almost 33% people with disabilities, and they have extraordinarily worked that model. And I think Alina Alam's Mitti Cafe, which she started, and where we have these cafes that run, are another example. I'm not taking Youth for Jobs, Enable India, Cadre, and Urja, because they are stunning examples of models that are in the local ecosystem. But these are the examples that come to mind. Did I answer the question?
Awesome. Yes. I think you have done a lot of justice to that question, specifically giving the right examples and helping us understand how difficult a neurotypical person needs to understand, or he's not able to understand what is the possibilities a person, a blind person is facing, or what is the possibilities that could be created. And always we have this inhibition of what's possible, what's not possible, kind of. Thanks for that. Now let me go to Meera. So the question for you is, what is the role of technology that technology can play when we have, as discussing from an inclusive skilling initiative, for successfully reaching all the marginalized communities?
40% of the persons who work with us now are people with disabilities. So we have Uday, who's visually impaired, who manages our Smart Inclusion Center. You'll see that like Moses and AL, what he does is his entire life is managed by a phone. Okay, he has these apps which open his door, which helps him order a Uber, helps him do almost anything he wants, travel, book a ticket. So tell the time, yes. And what's happening is that these apps are becoming, all the phone manufacturers now are ensuring you have accessibility inbuilt, because you have the number of people with disabilities as customers increasing, because everyone, as they start growing older, have a disability. Accident victims, in fact, in our training centers, the number of people with accidents who've been thrown out of their job by the private sector and who come get retooled are really, I think we have about 15% increase, Vijayanand sir, in our training centers of accident people. So, so that's one. The second level is that when you use it for livelihoods, we have a model where we've tied up with a modified EV vehicle. This is for people with spine injuries who can't do otherwise too much. And they are delivery agents for Zomato and now Amazon. So they earn anything between 20,000 to 40,000 depending on the amount of delivery you do. So again, using some kind of tech linked to livelihoods for a category who otherwise would really just be sitting in the home doing nothing. And the third, I want to talk about an organizational level. We give job placements to a huge number of youth with disabilities, for which we have large company tie-ups. So when we won the MIT award, the judges told us, you have the demand and supply with you. Why don't you connect the two through technology? And I thought it was too ambitious an idea, because I knew no one had it in Southeast Asia. But then a funder came and said, yes, we'll fund your idea. So today we have Swarajability, which is Southeast Asia's first job platform for persons with disabilities. It's cutting edge. There's an AI algorithm which matches the qualifications and the skills of the youth to the job profiles given by companies. It's completely accessible, which means that if you're visually impaired, with a press of a button, if you're speech and hearing impaired, you have sign language videos. So it's completely accessible and in 11 Indian languages. Today, I think we have about 220,000 youth on it, and we have about 2,800 companies. And that's the kind of, I think, scale to impact which technology helps you.
Yeah, that's great, Meera. So it is great to hear that we have a platform, especially when inclusion is a huge part of our Vijnana Kerala mission under KDISC. I think this is going to also help us a lot in ensuring we don't left behind the disabled population in Kerala, in ensuring they are also getting the right opportunities at the right places. Thanks for giving us that insights. Now let me move to Moses. So how do we ensure, Moses, that the marginalized groups are meaningfully integrated into the workforce or entrepreneurship ecosystems?
Thank you so much for that question. Just before I get there, I just wanted to build on what Meera said, because that's very close to my heart, and just I thought I'm taking liberty to just give one more example. Like millions of people in India, I love following cricket. When I was a child, I used to go to my mom every day, almost picking the newspaper from the delivery boy and run to her and say, tell me the score. So those days, we did not even have a television at home, so newspaper was the only source. And she used to say, I will read for you. Do you want me to cook or read paper? As I'm a hungry child, so I used to say, please cook. I mean, I always wanted to, I always wanted to say read, but never had a courage because, I was worried that I would miss my breakfast. From there to today, I think, my life has changed because my wife and I raised a 2-year-old son. She is a person without disability, but I do my own bit of ordering diapers to whatnot. I mean, things, I do my own investments, and this is not the story of only me. I think you'll see not just AL and me, but many people with disabilities. I think technology has changed in many, many ways that otherwise we cannot think. When we have people with disabilities who cannot move any part of their body doing project management across 7 countries and so on and so forth. I can give plenty of examples, but leading that to the question that you asked, Robin, I think is about how the landscape of persons with disability getting integrated in the mainstream labor market or into the, the part of becoming economically independent, I think has changed over the years. As I said, when I was growing up, again, I'll tell you a lot of stories because I only know the stories. When I was, I think in 6th grade, my teacher came and said to my mom, he's studying well, but there's a big problem. My mom like, what did he do? Did he beat the teacher? I was capable of doing it, but very naughty at that time. She said, what happened? Teacher said, no, he doesn't come for music classes and he doesn't sing, so I don't know what he would become when he grew up. Yes, it is true that I can't even sing in my own bathroom. So forget about me as a stage singer. Why am I saying that? I think AL has touched upon it. People were thinking that very limited opportunities for persons with disability. Today, if you look at economic participation, the landscape has changed because over 400 plus roles that have opened up for persons with disability. And again, this is not the ultimate list kind of thing. This is an indicative list where people with disabilities are working in really game-changing, cutting-edge jobs. Like I know a blind person who actually does a firefighter auditor, and it's not the firefighter auditor, the road fire engine auditor. He's actually a technology-based role where the person he's a coder doing their work good or not, looking at the log files and so on and so forth. I have a network engineer who is totally blind by birth and only manages level 4 issues at Cisco. And his clients are only Bombay Stock Exchange and banks and so on and so forth. And he was telling me, I only get into the such issues, otherwise I don't have any work. So he only manages the critical issues like that. There's plenty of examples like this. For example, blind women now are actually detecting early breast cancer. Deaf are doing, whatnot, graphic designing to the very high-end data analytics. And I'm sure there are a lot of examples. The landscape was changed. Earlier it was only few jobs, but now many, many things. And even self-employment. Enable India, I think, has listed about, again, 100 plus trades in the rural areas where persons with disabilities are participating in economic activities. How has this changed? I think 3 reasons, Robin, I think very quickly. So one is how we do skilling, how we enable people with disabilities, as I think over the years has changed. One of the things that I'll give an example, and this is closer to Kerala, example from Kerala itself. One of our training batches with Rotary Coach and Global Foundation, I know the proud trainer is actually sitting in the audience, and Anju deserves a good round of applause when I tell the example, which is that her students actually, as a part of their curriculum, they were asked to do a project. They said, you are, the course is not free. Your contribution to the course is that you have to go out and do volunteering work. And these are blind students. So they actually went and constructed, in the government hospital as a part of their course, breastfeeding units. You know why? They understood that the mothers are not bringing children for vaccination. So they went, understood the problem, they worked with the government setup and say, we are as a project building this for you. They raised the funding, everything. So in the process, they learned the skills that they need. They need to learn, they need to learn how to write a letter in Malayalam. they needed to talk to, government authorities. God knows how they did it. I don't know. I mean, it's very difficult, but to, move these mountains. But they did it. How? Because of giving purpose in their life. They thought, here is someone who's challenging, because our curriculum actually sets that expectation and says, we believe in you. We challenge you every day. So I think when we do such developmental programs, I think people will be able to, kind of gain that purpose and say, yes, I think beyond myself. Otherwise, oh, I am blind, I have so many challenges. It's true, but everybody has challenges. So can I actually move out of that space and say, can I do something for the society? I think that's the kind of skilling, enablement, development that we are talking about, where people with disabilities actually get purpose. And it's not just for persons with disabilities, for everyone. The second point is engaging employers. I think that's a very, very important. If persons with disabilities have to be part of the economic, participate in the economy, I think we need employers to also to come up halfway, which is not just about sensitization, but we engage corporates in volunteering. And that's a great way to begin, because that levels the playing field. Because, otherwise people, as Anantalakshmi said already, a lot of times the dominant story is only around, person, you are blind, oh my God. But if you know me a little bit more, I play golf, I'm a foodie, I travel, I read well. So, I mean, there is a lot more than just being blind. So I think when volunteering happens and when corporate folks come together and say, okay, let's go for a trek together, let's watch a movie together, that breaks the myths, a lot of myths that are there. So that's the second thing that we are seeing as a best practice model. I'm sure many organizations sitting in the audience also do this. And the third thing is working with the ecosystem. I remember in Bangalore when we actually placed a person with physical disability in a very wonderful manufacturing company, wonderful leaders. She found the job suitable, she cleared interviews, everything, and we were very happy. It's not only a good company and good fit for her, they also used to give a bun at the 4 o'clock while going out of the shift. The bread bun. This used to be very tasty, So I really liked that job. But she couldn't continue in that job because she couldn't travel 2 kilometers from her house to the company. The problem is not with her skills, the problem is not with the company, but the problem is somewhere else. So I think in this whole model that we are talking about, we engage stakeholders throughout. And now I have Raki in the audience who manages our Kerala state here. So she, if you meet her, she will tell you how we are engaging different stakeholders for one person to start the self-employment. It is the whole village coming together. I think that's so true for all of us here. So, the three things that we do so that the economic participation over the years has actually improved, and these are some of the examples.
Thank you so much, Moses, for adding examples and also bringing in multiple perspectives and the three important points on breaking the myth and enabling everyone in the same way as we do it. Okay, so now the next question goes to GVR. So the question is, what do you see the biggest barriers preventing equal access to the skilling opportunities, be it the location, the income, the gender, or the digital literacy? And how do you see we overcome these?
I would say the biggest barrier is mindset. Mindset at every level. Now, don't take this as criticism, but we have assumed today that nobody who really has a disability will walk into this room. This stage is not barrier-free. One. Number two, we've assumed that nobody deaf will be in this hall. We don't have sign language interpretation. So this is something, in spite of the fact that you have chosen this topic on inclusion, that did not go through because we have not been trained to think in that level. And the biggest problem there is our education system. He briefly mentioned that. I'm going to give you one example. I'd gone for a conference at Stanford, and I was waiting in the hotel lobby, and there was a gentleman who had a very odd-colored jacket with a bow tie and a cap was walking, and I jokingly told the person who came to pick me up, saying, most probably he's coming to our conference. And this was a small group of about 50, 60 people at the Stanford Medical School. I was sitting there and he comes in and sits next to me. He was the main speaker. And he's a professor of mathematics in one of the top universities there. But if he studied in India or studied in Kerala, he would have been a 10th grade dropout because he can't write his own biodata. He went in his entire presentation and talk. He was looking at the screen. He refused to look at any of us. And some of you may have read his book, Look Me in the Eye. And he says, why should I? A person who is neurodiverse, many people who are on the autism spectrum cannot look at you and speak. We assume that they need to look at us and speak. And he says, why should I? But I'll give you some good examples. I mean, Nish, which I was part of for initial days, but so many people work behind it. We have a girl who got admission to the College of Engineering Trivandrum on a quota for the deaf, which a lot of us fought for and came through, where they have quotas for education. In her third year, and she was deaf, she studied at Nish in the preschool. Her father calls up in third year and says, look, my daughter, she's doing well. The staff are all okay. But she's saying she wants to go to the US to do her studies. What do I do? I said, send her. I said, I send my daughters to the US. They're probably the first girls who studied at Gallaudet University. I said, send her. He says, no, but a girl, how do I send a girl? I said, there's no problem. Actually, she got admission. And I said, only thing, tell her she has to get admission to a good university with a scholarship. She got admission to Carnegie Mellon. She landed in Carnegie Mellon a few months before the COVID. So COVID time was terrible. Just imagine for a person. And then towards the end of the COVID period was when her course was getting over. And then she said, she calls up, she's messages saying, there's no placement. What do I do? I said, apply. You will get somewhere. If not, we will ensure you get a job somewhere. And she got a job. You know where? Apple. And I said, you got a job which is the dream of anyone in the technology sector. We have two girls from Nish again, twins. A very sad case where the father was no more. The mother, very difficult, LIC and stuff like that, she works. She got both of them to come study there. They went to a regular school, studied there. They got admission for civil engineering in the College of Engineering Trivandrum, again through the quota. Both had small jobs. Both got into the Indian Engineering Service. Why I'm telling this is that one of the biggest barrier, again, when I said mindset, is people thinking that a person with disability cannot get a job, cannot make a career. But these are role models, and these role models need to be projected. The next barrier I see is the way we operate, whether it's government or private sector. In the government, there is a quota, 5% jobs. So difficult to make anybody accept that, the particular job can be done by a person with disability. You have to go to court and fight it out. But the problem is the person who gets this job and comes there, the moment that person joins, he or she, it is assumed that this person cannot do a work, but has come in through a quota. So you put that person in a corner, there's a biggest insult to that person. And the thing that has changed in the private sector in that is you have catalysts, where you have the private sector organizations like Enable India or Youth for Jobs, who actually work with the company. They then get people who will actually enable these young adults who go there to get into the job, and then they work on it. So you really need to look at that entire system change. The law is there, so government follows it. But the problem is that how do you ensure that they are really given the opportunity to grow? So that is again, it's a mindset issue. And I would say that we need to break up our education system, not only for the persons on disability, but even for others. And that change will happen. If it doesn't happen, the existing university systems will become irrelevant very soon. And that is where I think the biggest change has to happen in this thing. And the main thing there is, it is no longer sympathy. It is we have to create opportunities. And we all have to be empathetic. Empathy is what is important. Sympathy is something which is actually an insult. And the typical thing of anybody in South India to say, ayyo pavam, okay? And I would say that there's a lot we can learn from places like the United States on that. The Gallaudet University's degree, even today, is signed by the US president. That is the important, and that was not started recently, it was started in the 1800s. So that is the thing, like, I think when Anilakshmi mentioned about Anilakshmi mentioned about how they found that it was a different world for people, opportunities are high. And actually it becomes a privilege there because you get a parking near the gate. Okay, you can get into a washroom which not too many people use. So that way you find you feel privileged there. Today you go somewhere and then somebody, you don't find a parking space. They say, so what, you park somewhere and come. What's your problem? So that understanding, and that is where society needs to change. And here I'll just stop with two things. One is what the former Chief Minister of Kerala, E.K. Nayanar, once said. After visiting me, he said, the problem of a child with a disability is not the problem of that family. It is a problem of society. And it is society's responsibility to ensure that that child is given the right opportunity. It was not dictated to him. It came out of his meeting some children, and then he said, that's what he said. And I would say that, and I give two examples of secretaries in government and stop. One is, of course, Dr. K.M. Abraham, who heads this. Such an empathetic person. A lot of things done under the State Initiative with Disabilities was done during his time because he was empathetic, he understood the cause. I'll give you another one without naming the person. When we were doing the first program or diploma in computer science for the deaf, which Nish started, we ensured that the quality of that program was so high that the professors from the engineering college were called for the Viva Voce. And we had the professors say that the quality of their projects are better than what MCA students in the university do. And then I took it for recognition as a diploma program by PSC. And the Social Justice Secretary at that time, he sat on the file for a long time. I put pressure. Then ultimately, we can give them an ITI certificate. I said, no. This is a 3-year diploma. They've come in after their pre-degree or +2. They have to be given a diploma. And he did typically of what a lot of these people do. He marked it to legal, then it'll never come back. But ultimately, we had another secretary came, we got it through. So the mindset of the people in positions are important to get this done.
Thank you so much, Jivya, for adding that specifically. I think it's a very important topic to be discussed, mindset and the psychology that we need to change, looking into the entire ecosystem. So next, Jaishankar. So the question for you is, what is the true meaning when you look at this Skills for All Summit of inclusivity in this, and why is it crucial for Kerala's future?
Thank you, Robin. I'll probably start in a slightly different tone. Just imagine about a Kalaripayattu Guru, the way he trains up his students. For an outsider, it will probably look very cruel. Okay, today I might sound very cruel. But a Kalaripayattu Guru actually is focusing on strengthening something. Correct. To me, the inclusion has to be looked at in a slightly different way. Good that I got that question, because I started with saying that inclusion is a majority versus minority kind of a tussle, what you see, and it's an age-old issue. Inclusion at what stage? Today, what is the real scenario in India or in Kerala in particular? The education system goes through an exclusive parameter and comes to a final degree. And then after that, you're leaving it to the corporate to decide the inclusion. And who is not an expert to decide how the inclusion should be done? That's a hard reality. And I'm sure all of us who are in the placement departments, you understand that very clearly. Till the age of 21, he is in an exclusive environment. He doesn't know how to mingle with the rest of the people. And you're expecting a corporate HR person to complete the inclusion, which is the most important parameter. We all say catch them early. Why can't, instead of like what GVR was saying, why should we look at disability-wise special schools? Why can't we categorize that into mild, medium, and extreme basis inclusion, right? I'm saying this with experience, and I've been running this organization for the past 8 years. When 4 years back, when I took the decision saying that the training program will be inclusive, the biggest barrier came from the trainers. It's not an easy thing to train multiple people in the same classroom. Today, when I look back, that was one of the best decisions I've ever taken. Today, because our contents are universal, There's a lot of complementing things to happen between various disabilities. Think about this. AL and Moses could be a different example. How many hearing impaired people have got friends outside the hearing impaired community? Right? How many visually impaired people have got friends outside their community? We've been trying about saying about inclusion suddenly in the corporate place. So to me, the inclusion should start at the early age of education, point number one. Now, point number two, I like what Jivar was saying about the mindset. It's certainly a mindset about the inclusion. He said about the experience. When I've got a slightly contra view to what Jivar said about the RAM not there or a speech translator not there. In fact, one of my colleagues sitting there, Urja's company, Takshan is there. He is a wheelchair-bound person. The morning we had a session and they had to sit in the basement, that floor to do the session because they couldn't come up. Today I've got a person, again part of the Urja ecosystem, a software company CEO. He is a hearing impaired boy. We are very proudly we have funded him, and then he's today sitting at a foreign country negotiating a deal. He could say that, no, I'm hearing impaired, I can't speak English. He built down his capability of in a second language. Today we have got, AL and Moses speaking about this in a very good way because they had a very good formal education. Why are we not, like I said about the cruel Kalaripai to Guru, why are we not strengthening that part of the ability part of the disabled people? Why are we not spending, instead of changing the entire majority spaces into RAM, today, can I have a technology coming in which has a walkable thing for the wheelchair and you can walk up the thing instead of spending so much money over there? Instead of spending so much money on ISL, I'm sorry to say that one. Can I spend that much money on a translator? And today, that person who's sitting there at the foreign country, he has got a mobile app in front of him and he's listening to everybody and reading English because he could read English, right? And just last point as an example. I remember when Urja, when we wanted to teach them data analytics, 8 years back, I had a very reputed professor coming from a college, took a session for 1 week and said that, no, these hearing impaired people can never learn analytics and walked out. I took it as a challenge and today, very proudly I can say that, no, everybody, whoever is into data analytics, they're able to complete Python or Tableau, whichever the tools they're saying. And they're working in multinational companies just because, since they are hearing impaired, listen to me very carefully, by design, not by design, just because they're hearing impaired, they have been developing something on the visual impaired. So which means they look at patterns completely different. Today, if I'm a right-hand boy, right-hand person, I've got my ability coming on my right arm because I've been using this for a long time. Because I'm hearing impaired, I've been using my eyes for a long time, because of which I'm developing certain abilities. And I'm seeing that personally over there. Or it comes to UI UX design. A lot of people used to say that a hearing impaired person can never do UI UX designs. Examples are there. To me, inclusion is more about thinking slightly different. Disruption is required. For sure, we'll have to look at the ability part.
Thank you so much, Jaishankar, for adding those points of disruption and how we can make the larger change by thinking it in a different manner. Great. So now let me go to the final, the 1 minute lap for each one of you. Let's not go beyond 1 minute. It has to be a rapid fire, and I believe we are already a bit late. It's okay, because we are talking about a very important topic here. So my question for everyone, so we'll start with Jaishankar. 5 years from now, what tangible outcomes you would love to see in Kerala that Kerala has achieved from the perspective of skills for all in both spirit and action?
In both?
Spirit and action.
I'll take. Yes. Lovely question. I wish Urja doesn't exist after 5 years.
Okay.
There's no need for an organization like Urja, is what I sincerely wish. And I wish, all 5 of us like this, with a little more gray hair, sitting and still debating what is inclusion. To me, that's what I'm dreaming.
Awesome. Over to you, GVS sir.
I'll just say that, just a bit of repeating what I said. Inclusion is not about sympathy, it is about dignity. A society where that's understood. From disability to capability is what we should talk about, what Jaishankar mentioned earlier. I would say building inclusive communities is a shared responsibility of government, industry, and society together. And we should have a society which understands that. I would say the future of work must also be the future of inclusion. And most important of all, and when you said about Kerala 5 years from now, I would say if the unemployment rate overall in Kerala should come down, and there should not be any person who has a disability who is not fruitfully engaged.
Understood.
And when I say fruitfully engaged, I mean based on the capability of that individual, that person should be able to do something, either on his or her own, or there should be a job that that person gets. And that is what will make, I think, all of us here very happy.
Awesome. Over to you.
Yeah, I think first of all, I think modeled on this conference, one of the things that I wanted to see change is that the discussion on persons with disability has to be part of the design, not as an afterthought. So I just wanted all of you to give a good round of applause to this conference, for, organizers, for making disability part of the conversation in the beginning itself. I think that this is the change that I wanted to really see at a Kerala at a design level, policy level, where disability is not just an afterthought. The second thing I think I wanted to dream saying that, why not? I mean, persons, I want to see, I know Kerala is in first for many, many things, many good things. I want to see persons with disabilities as a millionaires here. And I think it should top in having millionaires. That means people who are generating more employment and driving economy of this country. And the third thing, I think very specifically I am envisioning, and people, if you are an employer in this room, one is to look at looking at persons with disabilities as part of your workforce. But I think beyond that, you could also look at your procurement policy. There is a lot of things that you can do by just pledging to say, I will procure from persons with disabilities. I think any product that you want to procure for your company, procure from persons with disability.
Awesome. Thank you so much, Moses, for adding your views. Over to you, Meera.
I think we all know that Kerala fares so well in the human development indicators. I do feel with the kind of out-of-box solutions which have come in this World Skilling Conference, if integrated in spirit and on the field, Kerala can become an unemployment-free state.
Awesome.
I think that's a great vision to set yourself. I keep dreaming about it, Vijayaraghavan sir, which state in India will become unemployment-free? Because if you put that vision, then maybe we'll become 95%, 98%.
Like we became, I think, 97% literate. That is what, from the education perspective, I think this is something that we can achieve if we all stay together and start fighting for it. Okay. So over to you, Dr. Ananthalakshmi.
Taking on from that, I think my first dream 5 years from now is attaining dignity, and dignity for all. And for me, dignity means independence. It's independence of being able to move around. It's going beyond food, clothing, and shelter for people with disabilities to entertainment, tourism, so accessibility in terms of independence and moving around. And the third and the most important is financial independence. These are the number one dream I have is dignity. The number two dream is Kerala boasts, and we are very proud of our social conscience elevated levels. So if it is not in Kerala, where else could I ask for more mindfulness? I think Vijayaraghavan sir has been repeatedly saying, absolutely nobody needs sympathy and charity. Nobody, it's not only people with disabilities. Do you want sympathy and charity as an able-bodied person? I don't think so. So what I mean is social consciousness, yes, the metric could be unemployment, the metric could be entrepreneurship, the metric could be anything that we pick up. But let this global summit become the coalition point, starting point, where governments, social enterprises, multilateral banks, and corporates, and each of you as individuals take a pledge as you walk out of this room now after this discussion, saying next time you see any of us, a person with disability, stop that urge to overprotect and start looking at how will you drive dignity for us. That would be a starting point, and 5 years from now, I hope to dream and walk in a Kerala and India where dignity need not be debated and discussed and dialogued, but is a right and not a privilege.
Thank you so much, Dr. Ananthalakshmi, for adding your views. Now,
I have a question.
Questions from the audience. Yes, over to you. Just introduce yourself also.
I'm Dr. Umar Salim, representing India in the EU for printed intelligence. Heard of printed intelligence? Okay, forget about that.
A lot of echo is coming out. Sorry.
Okay, my question is, does inclusion skilling address the opportunity loss due to skill mismatch implication is foreign exchequer, national foreign exchequer and foreign direct investment.
Robin, can you just listen and repeat it? There's a lot of feedback. Sorry. Can you speak without the mic? Without the mic.
I need to say best inclusion skilling. Address the opportunity loss due to skill mismatch. Implication is FDI, national foreign exchequer, cross-border knowledge intelligence sharing, etc.
So what is... Understood.
The skill.
What is what we are using in the economy?
Number on that.
Actually, what you said is very true, not only for persons with disability, it is true across. What you're saying is true across also. No, that's what I said, is that it is true across where there is a mismatch on the skilling and mismatch on the kind of opportunities that are there. Very clearly that is there.
Just want to add, yesterday evening I was reading a report that was saying the gross national income loss because of people with blindness in India who are not part of an inclusive workplace is 38 billion US dollars because they are not economically independent and economically active. I don't know whether you're looking for the number, but if you're asking what does it mean because we don't have inclusive skilling, this is what it means to me, number-wise. Is that what your question was?
Yes.
Yeah. So I think just to add to that, one big number that we can look at is, by WHO, the estimate is that when you don't include persons with disability, we are losing about 8 to 10% of our GDP. Yeah, ILO, ILO. It's that important. So, and I think there is also $18 trillion purchasing power of persons with disability. So that's another thing. If you don't treat persons with disabilities and their families as customers, that is what you would lose. If you don't invest in persons with disabilities as per ILO, then it's about 8 to 10% of your GDP loss.
Thank you, all the panelists.
Thank you all. So with this, we come to an end. I just wanted to thank all the panelists, especially the leaders who have spent their careers proving that when we design for margins, we strengthen the center. And for everyone has a seat at the table of opportunity, entire communities rise. Thank you so much for the wonderful words.